All right, what's going on, boys? It's Keg for Rome Pure Bets, back with another UFC Fight Night main card breakdown video. Broke this down about 3 times this week already, so for the 4th and final time, let's get into it. If you're not a member of Rome Pure Bets, obviously, I encourage you to subscribe. The boys are awesome. Use promo code BETS25 off. Get your 25% off the first week or month. And with that, we'll break down this card. I guess we'll run through the main card. Let's see where this main card starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is Mearshart on the main card? Let me pull up. Feels like a good weekend to make some money, boys. I'll be honest, this card is rough from a betting perspective. There was almost nothing that I could find that I was very confident in would cash a ticket today, unless you wanted to lay some serious juice, which I just couldn't do. So yeah, Mearshart, Lipsky. Is the Lipsky fight off? No. All right, so let's start with the Mearshart fight. Let me pull up the odds. Actually, there is one bet, though, that I want to talk about that's not on the main card because it's one of the only few bets that I like on this card. The Josh Quinlan, Jason Witt fight. You guys, I've talked about Jason Witt for a month now, between the amount of times this fight got canceled and especially in the last week or 2 weeks. We've been talking about Jason Witt's chin and how bad it is. Josh Quinlan getting popped coming off the Contender Series. Finally, he's going to step into the cage. But at the end of the day, man, it's hard to back Jason Witt when he's been knocked out 6 times in his career. 3 out of the last 6 fights. So I can't trust him with my money. Not with the chin that's that bad. So I can't bet him. That's already a pass. For me, I am going to take the shot on Jason Quinlan to knock Jason Witt out because I think he's explosive. I think he's very good in the pocket, especially his hand speed, and he's got some power he can crack for sure. From what I've seen, there isn't a ton not to like about Josh Quinlan. So, barring he can obviously stay clean with USADA. So the odds open around minus 200, right? And right now he's minus 285. Makes sense to me. Don't get me wrong. Jason Witt has a good wrestling, a good ground game, and a good takedown game, and a good solid top control wrestling game. But that doesn't mean anything if you can't use it because you're sleeping. So I'll take the shot that he knocks Jason Witt out. We got it at like plus 105, and that's good enough for me. So Bruno Silva and Gerald Mearshart, I can't think of a time where there has been one guy that has 20 knockout wins fighting a guy that's got 26 wins by submission. I was trying to think back if that's happened before in the UFC. I don't think so. So it's like the ultimate clash of styles. Everybody knows what Bruno Silva is about, especially the people that have been fans like since COVID, right? He's got super heavy hands. He's dangerous. He could put you down at any time. Stupid power. He's fast, good footwork, but he's KO or bust, really, because 19 of his 22 wins are by knockout. But does that necessarily mean he's KO or bust? Or does that just mean that he knocks people out and he can't help it? So maybe he's not KO or bust. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. But on the ground, he will be entirely as good as he is on the feet. I think is as unproven as he is on the ground, and he will be out of his depth when he goes to the ground with Gerald Meerschaert, because Gerald Meerschaert is basically the polar opposite fighter of Bruno Silva. Now on the feet, do I think that GM3 can hold his own? Probably not. Probably not. He's not on the level of Bruno Silva as a striker, not even close. But he's more durable than people give him credit for. He's only been put down 3 times in 50 fights. That's pretty good. How many times did you get put down in 50 fights? Me? Probably 48 times. Probably. So, I mean, 3 times is not that bad. But that Chimaev knockout was nasty. The Ian Heinisch knockout before that was nasty. So he did have those 2 fights where he got knocked out back to back. But since then, he's been relatively durable. So, yes, he can get knocked out for sure. But I wasn't going to lay minus 150 earlier in the week on Bruno Silva to knock Meerschaert out. And I'm certainly not going to lay minus 165. Or whatever he is now in some spots. So I can't get on Bruno Silva here. Now, if Gerald Meerschaert could actually clinch up and not get put down, even just get his hands on Bruno Silva while he works for takedowns or works him against the cage, I think this has a solid chance to go over 1.5 rounds. Now, I know the majority of the people are going to just be like, Bruno Silva, first round knockout. You know what I mean? Probably that's what you're going to see a lot of people say. I don't know, man. Listen, Bruno Silva does not have the best cardio. The second half of this fight, if he hasn't knocked out Meerschaert already, it could get greasy. It could get greasy. So from a money line perspective, dog or pass. But the only 2 lines that really stuck out to me was the over 1.5 rounds plus 105, because like I said, if GM3 can get hands on him, it could definitely get over. And aside from that, you can't sell me on the fact that basically Gerald Meerschaert's only path to victory is plus 550 by submission when he's only plus 235 on the money line. How does that make sense? Can he use top control and grind out a decision? It's possible. So I guess, this could go to the cards and he could win it theoretically. But I don't know, man. It feels kind of sub or bust to me for GM3. So 5.5 to 1 is not awful there. Aside from that, though, I don't really see anything I like. I've got the worst cotton mouth ever. What's up, Otter? What's up, D? All right, next fight. What do we got? So is the Priscilla Cachoeira fight's not on the main card, right? The Lipski fight? Oh, yeah, it is. All right. So Ariane Lipski, Priscilla Cachoeira. Yeah, third fight on the card that was rescheduled from the last week or two. And, you know, there hasn't been much change to the handicap. We're on the split prop at 4.5 to 1. Neither of them are very good, I think, on the ground. Both of these women are pretty similar. They just want to stand and probably bang for 15 minutes. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, so Lipski was the former KSW champion, right? Looked good over there. Now, she's looked solid in the UFC, but not as good as she looked in KSW because the competition has gotten better. I would say she's slightly more complete and well-rounded on the feet, technique-wise, the ability to bounce in and out of range, her willingness to strike long, managed distance. But I would give the power edge and the forward pressure to Priscilla Cachoeira, and it's not even close. I mean, Zombie Girl just gets hit in the face and throws bombs. That's what she does. She's trying to be the first female at CTE, I think. But so the odds open offshore, Lipski minus 180, right? And since then, she is minus 200. So not a ton of movement. So with it coming out that Lipski had COVID, that's why she missed weight. And that's why the fight ended up getting scrapped. I mean, where does that leave you in your thought process for this fight? If she was healthy and all things were equal, I think she's the better fighter. I think she should win. But if she's not healthy and she's compromised, Zombie Girl's a tough out to be compromised against. So I'm going to pick Lipski because I'm just going to judge her off being 100%. So I'll pick her to win the fight, but I'm happy about the split prop at 4.5 to 1 here because who knows what's going to happen in this one now. I'm done with that one. Devin Clark, Azamat Mirzakhanov. So Mirzakhanov was supposed to originally debut back in like 2017. For some reason, that didn't come to fruition. Finally gets a shot on the Contender Series last year. Looks good. Gets the knockout win over Scheffel. Comes into the UFC. Fights Tafon in Chikwe. And looks really, really bad. I mean, there's no other. I watched that fight like 3 times this week because I'm like, did he look that bad? He looked that bad. There's just no way around it. He looked really bad. And like for people that are new, you probably don't know who Mirzakhanov is. But for like diehard MMA fans, he's been on the scene for years before he got signed to the UFC. So, I mean, he was making big noise on the Sambo scene against some really good competition for a while. So, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that version that we saw against Nchikwe is half the guy that he was, half the guy that used to beat Kudalaba and other monsters on the Sambo scene. He just didn't look like the same guy when he fought back in March. So the tough decision is, do you throw that fight out and judge him on what you know of him from before March, prior to March? Or do you take that into consideration? I don't know. I think I leaned more towards what I saw in his last fight, because I think he's good, man. I really do. He's got power. He is faster than you think he would be for his frame. And up until March, his cardio had held up relatively well, but it did not look good. He was clearly down 2-0 in the third round before he got that flying knee knockout win. And he was slowing down, towards the end of the second and early in the third round. So, but when he's at his best, he can strike in space. But when he's at his best, he's getting his underhooks in against the cage. He's working for takedowns. He wants to get you inside control. He's trying to work an arm, or he's trying to just get a submission to finish you, right? That's basically when he's at his best. So now he'll take on Devin Clark, who I say every time that Devin Clark fights, the big knock on him is he's like totally cool with fighting until he gets punched in the face. And then once that starts to happen, he does not like it at all. But he's not bad. He's not great, but he's not bad. Former JUCO national wrestling champion, former judoka, and he's going to want to have a very similar game plan to, I think, Murzakanov. Basically, work to get inside, to work for the takedowns. If he can get the takedowns, do exactly what Murzakonov's going to try to do. And that, I think, is the pivot point. The two decisions in this fight are, do you judge Murzakanov off what you saw in March or not? And two, whoever is successful at getting the takedowns in this fight, when they're working against the cage, I think will go a long way to determining who wins the fight. So the odds open offshore, Murzakanov minus 175. Right now, Devin Clark is plus 125. Now, I said on Friday night, on Friday afternoon, when I did the video on my YouTube channel, I don't really pay attention to anybody until I'm done with my prep, because at the end of the day, I'll eat or starve off my own back. That being said, it seems that Devin Clark is a trendy dog this week, which doesn't make me feel great because I have a slight lean to him in the fight. And more often than not, you probably don't want to be with the public in MMA. But I'm going to lean towards the dog at plus 130. I think a solid parlay piece in this fight, though, is the over 1.5 rounds at minus like 175 or 180. Because I think once they start to clinch up, the seconds could tick off pretty fast, and you can get that over home. So I don't really mind that. I actually thought about betting that straight, But I didn't really want to lay the juice after getting my balls kicked in last week. I got my dick kicked off last week in NASCAR. So I'm not going to lay it. But aside from that, I think it's a dog or pass. I can't lay that on Mirza Khan off of what I saw against Tafan and Chikwe. I can't do it, man. I can't. Devin Clark's, he's a gamer. He's a journeyman. All right, Yasmin Waregi against Yasmin Lucindo. So Waregi looks like she can crack. She's got some power. Her hands are like lightning, especially when she has you up against the cage. And she looks good when she thinks she could finish somebody. She will not stop throwing. So I like what I saw. I think that she looks good. I think she deserves to be the favorite in the fight. The question is, does she deserve to be that big of a favorite? On the ground, I think her takedown defense didn't look awful. But all in all, she looked good. Lucindo, now Waregi's only 23. Lucindo, 20 years old, another baby. Also looks good, though. 17 pro fights at 20 years old. And I rewatched 2 fights this morning. She does not look bad. She's got 8 knockout wins, but they're ground and pound wins. Her striking game on the feet is nowhere near as evolved as Waregi, I don't think. But if she gets the body lock, man, she's good at working takedowns. She's good at, I saw her get multiple takedowns from like high crotch. She blasted a double leg. She's solid. I think she's going to have a real shot to get her to the ground. And if she can get her to the ground 2 out of 3 rounds, she could win the fight. I also think that if she can't get Waregi to the ground, she could get knocked out. For sure. So right now, the odds open Waregi minus 260. And where is she now? Minus 195. Yeah, I agree with that line move because she shouldn't have been that high. I took Lucindo at plus 185, I think. I took a shot on the dog because I don't mind. I almost took a shot on Waregi KO at plus 260, but these girls are so small. It's very hard to get a knockout win home with girls that are this small. So I didn't, but I do think that there's value on the dog. So at plus 185, I took it. Also, we're on the split prop at 4.5 to 1. I think if this is one of those fights where she could have 7.5 minutes of control time and lose 7.5 minutes on the feet, and we find ourselves with a shot at the split decision prop at 4.5 to 1. There are so many questions with these two girls. They are so young. They are so unproven. I think the split prop is definitely viable here, and I think you have to take. I think at the end of the day, you have to shoot your shot on the dog because she's solid. It's not like she's bad. Aside from that, a pass. David Onama, Nate Landwehr. Yeah, so Nate Landwehr was very well thought of when he was the featherweight champion at M1 Global. And that tends to happen over there. You get the respect of the community because you're constantly going up against Russian monster wrestlers that can also strike. But he looked good. He had success with his hands. he had success with his own wrestling base, and he just beat them consistently. Then he moves up, takes the step up to the show, and it's been mixed since then, because you can tell that Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard liked what they saw in him coming over, and they thought he probably was pretty solid. They put him in there with Julian Erosa. They put him in there with Ludwig Klein. They put him in there with a veteran journeyman grinder like Darren Elkins. And then even Woodson's not awful. They put him in there with Woodson too, right? So he goes 2-2 in those 4. But he gets knocked out by Herbert Burns, which is a bad. Herbert Burns, not Woodson. My bad. I don't know why I said Woodson. Herbert Burns. So he gets knocked out by Herbert Burns, which is a bad look, and he gets knocked out by Erosa. And the issues that he had in those fights are largely like his problem. Like in that Erosa fight, he gets into these striking wars with people he has no business getting in these striking wars with. If he would just hone in on the real advantage that he has, which is his wrestling, his pace, and his cardio, they are all assets that he should lean on. And he strikes too much. And that's not good, I guess, when you're fighting David Onama. Now, I'm not super high on David Onama. A lot of people that watch the Kegcasts aren't super high on David Onama. I understand that he's one of Krause's kids that has a ton of hype. He's on a total hype train right now. It's a great gym, one of the best in the world. Everybody loves the kid, but I'm very lukewarm on him still. He's just way too unproven. He does have 10 finishes and 10 wins. And he is very good. His striking is clean at times. But he hasn't fought anybody other than Mason Jones, and he lost to Mason Jones. So I have my issues and concerns with this kid. And I think that he was losing that fight last time out in the first round. I thought he lost it to Garrett Armfield before finding himself getting that submission. I think it was in the second round. I think it was the second round. But I thought he lost the first round to Armfield. I mean, really? I don't know how good this kid is. And he still has a ton to learn. And there's no way that I could lay $3 on him right now. No chance. I'm going to pick him to win the fight because Nate has big defensive liabilities on the feet, and you will have the opportunity to hurt him if he stands and bangs. So I'm going to pick him to win the fight. But the two props that stick out to me would either be taking the shot on Landwehr can weather that storm the first half of the fight and get this fight into the latter part of round 2 and really try to start implementing a wrestling heavy game plan and trying to gas this kid out. Maybe that can work. I guess if I was going to take him, it would probably be by decision at 5.5 to 1. I don't really think he'll win probably any other way. If not taking the shot there, and you're going to go with the game plan that David Onama is going to beat him in the first half of the fight. Earlier in the week, DraftKings had Onama and the under 1.5 rounds was like plus 140. That's not an awful bet. Let me check what the odds are right now. I can't bet it though because I'm not sold on him. But for the Onama truther, that's not a bad bet. Oh, it's plus 110 right now. So it's taken about 30 cents of money. All the truthers out there just drinking that Onama Kool-Aid. So, yeah, I mean, at plus 110, that's not as appealing. So, yeah, I don't really like anything in this fight. I think it's a pass. All right, main event time, boys. Big Cheeto guy. He's always going to fight for your money. Oh, yeah, sorry. Marlon Vera against Dominic Cruz, main event. So I'm a big Cheeto guy. Love him. Always going to fight for your money. But he starts slow. And in most fights, you'll have the opportunity to get him at a way better price going into round 2, right? So it's hard for me to get invested really ever in Marlon Vera pre-fight unless we start to see him winning the first round in more fights. He just doesn't do it that often. So from a betting perspective, if you like the Cheeto side, I would wait to live bet him going into the second round. As a fighter, there's a lot to like. He starts slow, but once he gets going, he picks up the pace and uses that gas tank and that size and a very, very comprehensive striking game behind ridiculous power in his leg kicks. And a dangerous striker from range. But the knock on him is he's easy to hit. He absorbs like 5 significant strikes landed per minute, I think. And aside from that, on the ground, I think he's pretty solid. I think he's got a BJJ black belt level submission game, but he doesn't really use it all that often, right? But I like him. You know what? The one thing I did want to check on him was I forgot to check on what his volume is. Let's see what that is. I forgot to look this, or I did look and I forgot. He's got substantial power for the weight class, Marlon Vera. He lands 4.33 significant strikes per minute. Not bad. But he can be low volume, I think, at times, but he has power. Power that Dominic Cruz doesn't have. Now, obviously, Dominic Cruz is the best bantamweight in the history of the UFC. And God knows what he could have been had he not lost the majority of his prime from knee surgery after surgery. As a striker, is he a knockout threat? No. He just doesn't have the genetics to be a power puncher. Some people are born with it. Some people are not. He wasn't. But he has probably the most incredible footwork in the history of the sport. And he just cuts angles that leaves other people just out in the open and super exposed. And while he might not have the power to knock them out, he just keeps going to work and ringing up those significant strikes. Because let's be honest, if Dominic Cruz is going to win this fight, it's going to be a decision. I don't think he could win it another way. Now, Cheeto has power, but what makes Dominic Cruz so good defensively is he's incredibly hard to time, right? So it's going to be hard for Vera to get his timing with those angles and that weird, quirky footwork that Cruz has. So I fully expect him to lose the first round in this fight, even more so than others, because it's going to take him a while, I think, to get the timing down. And he starts slow anyway. So let's say he loses the first round and he gets his stride in the second round. I don't know if he will get his stride or not because of how quirky that footwork is from Dom. But at the end of the day, like, the shots that Vera does land in this fight are going to hurt. And that's my big concern for Cruz. But how many times have we counted out Dom? Like, we counted him out, like, in that Casey Kenny fight, picks up the win. Who else did he fight? Oh, the Pedro Munoz fight. Was that Munoz that he fought? Yeah. The Pedro Munoz fight, what was, I thought, like a coin flip probably. He beats him. So I don't want to be quick to count out Dominic Cruz. I think he's live here. I'm not going to lie. I've been saying it all week. I think that he could win this fight. Like, I can see a scenario where 10 minutes into the fight, Vera is still having a hard time trying to get Cruz figured out. And all of a sudden, he's down 2 rounds going into the final 3. And then somewhere along the line, Dominic Cruz grabs one more round and wins 3-2 in a fight where Vera couldn't put him away. I mean, you're telling me that can't happen tonight? That can absolutely happen tonight. So I have been back and forth on the fight all week. Should I bet Dominic Cruz by decision, or should I live bet Marlon Vera after the first round and just get guaranteed built-in value? That's what I've been struggling with. And to be honest, I haven't even decided yet. Once we're on the live betting show today, and I'm talking to the boys, and we're talking through everything, then maybe my guess is that they're all going to want to take Marlon Vera live, Cheeto, and that's probably the right call. But I'm telling you, Dominic Cruz is more live than that decision price. For sure. But from a betting perspective, I think that's your decision. I can't give you an answer because I haven't even decided. On the Rum Pure Sports Show, I think I went with Dominic Cruz by decision because Title and DC were on the Cheeto train. But yeah, it's really close. I can't give you an answer because I really haven't made up my mind. If I do bet Dominic Cruz by decision, I will tweet it out from the Sports Keg YouTube, from the Sports Keg Twitter account if I get on it. If I don't, assume I'm probably on Marlon Vera live. I'm probably on Cheeto live. But that's it, boys. Plays that I'm on today. I'm on Josh Quinlan, knockout plus 105. I took a shot on the Osborne Nam fight, doesn't start the second round at plus 250. I mean, Odie Osborne hasn't gotten out of the first round in 9 out of 10 fights, whether he's won or lost. Hasn't gotten out of the first round. Plus 250 seems a little of a misprice to me. So I'll take the shot there for, I think, like a half unit, I bet. Yeah. At plus 250 that the Nam Osborne fight doesn't start round 2. The Martin Budai fight, I took that fight goes to decision at plus 155. All half units because I don't really like this card much at all. I took Lucindo plus 185 for a half unit. And then I'm on the women's split decision props, obviously. I think that the majority of these fights have a shot for the women to go to split decision. You would think Angie stays on her feet, that will end by split. Any fight that Angie stays on her feet basically ends by split. 3 out of the last 5 at least. So, but I will say, I think Loopy probably wins a unanimous decision. That number was minus 110 earlier in the week. I targeted it, spoke about it, but I didn't bet it. That number is like minus 140 now, I think. The one caveat in those Angie Hill split decision props and you know, all those fights that have gone to split decision, that frankly she's been on the wrong end of most of the time. They're primarily strikers, really. Loopy is going to try to get the fight to the ground. Historically, Angie 77% takedown defense. Verna got her down pretty easily, though. I think if Loopy can get her down, she's going to cruise to a unanimous decision. If she can't get her down, we're probably going to cash the split decision prop at plus 400 or 450. All right, that's it, boys. You basically know my action. My Sports Keg YouTube channel. Last night, Coop and I went live breaking down NASCAR for an hour and a half. Tomorrow, Coop and I will be live at 11 o'clock in the morning on Rum Pure Bets YouTube, breaking down the race from a betting perspective. And then at 1 o'clock, me, JJ, and Coop will be live on the Rum Pure Sports side, talking the Cup Series race from Richmond, DFS, and betting. So, and then 3 o'clock tomorrow, we will be live doing the live betting show for KegCast subscribers. You guys know the deal, man. All I keep doing is just spitting content out. It's what we do. Let's finish strong. Let's have an August. Let's finish this month right. I want to end on a high note. So that's it. I'm sure JJ will at 12 tomorrow we'll have the MLB full Sunday card breakdown with I would assume Joey and Holden. And then we try to get this NASCAR race home tomorrow. The Sports Keg Twitter account, whatever I'm on for NASCAR, I will tweet it out. I actually have plays already that Coop and I bet from last night when we did the NASCAR Cup Series breakdown video on my channel, but I will tweet out what I'm on, and I will probably throw them on the Rum Pure Bet spreadsheet also. Try to finish August really strong. So that's it. I hope your action runs pure this weekend. If you're going to crush, do it responsibly, but crush. And that's it. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Later.